Damn, welcome back, Uno Night. And guys, Erika is probably one of the units I've had the most fun trying to make an analysis for, just because of all the calculations. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean she's my favorite unit or she's the best unit. Very far from it, but she's good at what she does. I'll tell you that much. But here's the thing, right? So should you be pulling on her? Here's the thing. So personally, I don't know, man. Like when Erika released, I woke up, I was like, you know what? I can't be bothered to pull. So I don't know. You know that thing, like when you just wake up, you just do stupid stuff. Bro, I just bought the Erika pack without really thinking twice about it. So, well, at least now I have Erika without having to pull, right? And eventually I pulled 3 times. And I got her like legendary, right? So, well, it is what it is. A good unit to test out, legendary, right? Pretty decent ascension. She doesn't really need more than that, to be fair. So, anyways, back on track. You won't really have to pull for her yet, you know, if you don't want to, right? If you're undecided, I'm not saying you should, right? You won't have to pull for her yet. Literally, just wait and see if next week, right? With Guild Grade and Champions Arena, because you need 3 teams for each, right? I think it was mentioned in the patch notes that you need 15 souls. I'm not sure if you need 15 souls for both forms of content or just one of them. But then either way, you're probably going to want some healers, right? So, if we feel like Erika's going to be a really good healer, then by all means, if you have extra, you know, ever crystals, what are they called? Everstones? Yeah, Everstones. If you have extra Everstones lying around, may as well invest in her if you want to, right? So if you are going to go for her, I'd say 80 or 120 pulls. 120 is actually recommended this time just because her artifacts are actually really good, even at Epic Plus. Now, obviously, you kind of want this Legendary Plus, right, for a purge on her artifact, but then not necessarily, right? So initially, I thought you'd need her, like, high ascension on her artifact, but then there are some interactions which are already good even just at Epic Plus, right? So we'll be talking about that. So she's actually a really good healer for what she does, but she doesn't replace anyone, right? Necessarily, especially in PvP. Sorry, in PvE. She's really good in PvP. Did I say PvP? Okay, she's good in PvP, a really good healer in PvP, but in PvE she doesn't really, you know, replace anyone. So if you have other units really good ascension like Talia, then you won't really need Erika, right? The thing is, we literally just had a Talia banner, so I'm expecting people to have a decent amount of Talias because this game gave us so much Talia sources, right? This unit, I'm not sure why Eversoul loves this unit so much, but then she's literally our reward for a first purchase, right? So yeah, you could spend $1 and get Talia, right? And like Catherine is having, what do you call it? Where is she? Catherine is literally having her banner coming up really soon this month. So yeah, there's that. Well, I mean, the thing is, Catherine doesn't really need dupes in general, right? She's just that good. But if you want to, I mean, go for it, right? We literally see her clearing so much content even just at Epic Plus, so it's actually crazy. You could see all those clearing videos on YouTube using Catherine Epic Plus. So anyways, straight into Erika's kit, right? So literally the entire thing with her kit is on Eureka, but the problem is with Eureka is that it's very slow. What do we mean by slow? Like, oh, it's just one move, right? Oh no, here's the thing. Eureka literally takes up 2 whole moves to cast, right? I'll probably show that on the screen because just found this out recently, because I knew it was slow, but I didn't know it was that slow. I thought it was just an animation thing, right? So what does this mean? She's very hard to use without a speed advantage. Her sub-skill rotation is this: S3, which is Eureka, right? S1 is Poisonous Potion, S2 is Giant Potion. So again, S3 into S1, N1, S3, S2 into N1, right? And then it loops after N1 back to S3. The biggest problem with that is that her S3 actually takes up 2 moves, right? So instead of being a 6-move turn, it's actually an 8-move turn, right? So just deep that real quick. That is very, very slow. So anyways, before we explain how to rectify that and why it's an issue at the same time, we'll go straight into her kit, right? So sub 3, which is Eureka. So the neat thing about this is, as we've already mentioned with her rotation, she always uses this like right before her sub 1 or sub 2. So there's a 50% chance to proc Eureka 3, which is literally just the same as Naya's sleep chance, right? So not really a big deal, because 50% is pretty good, and you already get the 20% attack increase guaranteed if you do get the Eureka buff, right? So the thing is, you don't always need Eureka 3, and we'll be talking about that now, right? Especially with sub 1, right? We'll talk about him. The reason why Poisonous Potion will not need a Eureka 3, even with the 24% defense shred, is this. This would usually debuff the backline, right? Because again, this targets the furthest enemy and poisons it. Now the thing is, usually the units at the backline would already have very low defense anyway. Anywhere from 4k to 10k, right? So 24% defense rate to this really would not benefit you too much. So let's just say on average, we get like 6k. Because, let me just check very quickly. Say Mephi. Yeah, a lot of these backline units literally have like 4,000 to 10,000, right? It's at like plus 5, 240, and I think in stage 17 you get 260 something units, so but then they're plus 2, so they pretty much evens out, right? Don't quote me on that, but then close enough, right? Let's just go with 6k. You multiply this by 0.76 because again 24% defense shred, so 1 minus 24 is 76%. Anyways, so we're literally only losing like 1440 defense, or in some cases 2400 if it is like say a Jade. I think Jade has 9k defense, something like that. So yeah, not really a big deal, right? End of the day, because listen, if this thing targeted a tank, this would be a different case, because Chloe has, well, I mean, all tanks except Adrianne do have 35k defense, so you multiply this again by 0.76. That's almost 10,000 defense shred, bro. That's like an entire Jade, right? So there, like, that's really why you don't really need Eureka 3, because it's a backline. This could be a deal breaker sometimes, right? Because you won't be able to nuke, but then it's not really a big thing. That's why I'm glad they put the attack shred on Eureka 1, because I personally believe this is more important, right? 24% attack shred on the unit in the backline, which tends to have the highest attack, is the most important thing anyway, right? Because, well, they're usually the ones that nuke, and especially in cases where you have a Flynn, the enemy has a Flynn, right? You debuff this and enemy Flynn on the other side, and you know, Flynn won't be nuking as hard. You'll basically be supporting your team. And again, the reason why I like that it is damage over time on a healer unit is because they don't really have good crit multipliers anyway, and damage over time doesn't crit. So 65%, how long is this? I already did this before. Times, so 10 seconds, that's 5 times. So 65 times 5, top of my head is 325. Yeah, and then you add 130. The thing is, again, this will always have a Eureka buff, so extra 20% attack. And then her attack is literally exactly the same as Talia's, if I remember correctly. 6612. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the same as Talia, because, you know, Talia was my first ever guide. So I memorized her stats like the back of my hand. Anyways, so that's it for sub 1. Sub 2. Eureka 1 is the most important one for this, since this is a direct buff to a tank's survivability. So we're looking at units such as Claire and Chloe that would benefit the most from this. Oh, what the hell was that sound? Claire would be able to survive on the other side of the line even longer, since a decent Claire would usually survive long enough for the heal. Now again, this is very late into the rotation. Oh, I just leaked my rotation guide. I'm gonna be making a video with this with Tired, right? It's gonna be our collab. But if you pair her with the right units, it really wouldn't take that long. You'll probably save off 1 turn with units such as, say, Vivienne or Honglan, and we'll get into the calculations of that in a bit. So there you have it. Yeah, so for Chloe, you'd be able to ignore the HP threshold for her double resistance buff, because if you're not familiar, let's show you very quickly. Chloe, much like Catherine, has a HP threshold for a double resistance. Over here, there, 35%. This is the only time she gets double resistance. Problem with this is that, let's say you're fighting like a Miriam or a Dora who has a capability or the ability to actually one-shot your tank. They will never reach the threshold and they'll just get one shot. Thing is, Erika could buff you before you actually start tanking that damage, which is really good, right? So yeah. Now again, do we need Eureka 3 on this? Unless it's an emergency, no. right? Because one of the problems with her is that she doesn't actually have a full screen heal, obviously, apart from her ultimate, right? So yeah, that's one big problem with her, right? That is literally one of her biggest cons. Now let's talk about her main magnum opus. Not even sure if that's how you pronounce it. Very high multipliers for an emergency heal that is AoE, right? And she even gets a neat shield from this at Eureka 3, right? So at Eureka 1 level 3, this is literally 260 plus 120, which is 380%. Now if we compare that to Geo's very quickly, alright, here's the thing with Geo. They're also both emergency heals, meaning that they target the same unit. But then the thing with Geos is, although it does give 50% speed boost, why? I mean, bro, this is usually going to be the tank. Why would you want a 50% speed boost on a tank, like, respectfully? I mean, it helps though, but, you know. Thing is, this is 440, so... there's literally, like, 86% the heal of Geo. Now, what if we go like, oh, what if... Don't they have different attack stats? No, bro, the difference is literally 8 attack. Geos is 60,604, bro. So just keep that in mind. They're pretty much the same. Alright, let's not be nitpicky about this. Anyways, that aside, 440% again, but this is single target. And where is this? Oh yeah, sorry about that. 380%. So 87% the heal of Geo, and if you already have Geo, you know how much heal that thing does, right? The point and click heal is crazy. Thing is, this is AoE, and now the part where this thing actually goes bonkers is at Eureka 3, which adds 200% of Erika's attack as a barrier, right? So if you're playing, let's say, manual, sorry, if you're playing auto and then you end up using Erika's skill without Eureka 3, and then your team is already full HP, you pretty much waste a sub skill. So if you see that, you know, just turn off auto and then either try to get Eureka 3 or just hold on to it, bro, or else you're just waiting, or you're wasting like Erika's main healer, right? So with that, let's actually think about team compositions. I won't give you the actual full teams, but then we'll brainstorm how we put her in a team, right? So she works well in specific types of teams. What do I mean? So in a melee range team, she works well in a dedicated version of each one. So you either go full melee or full range. Does that mean you have to strictly abide to this? No, right? Again, it would depend on the enemy. It depends on your team. So the reason why it works better with a dedicated version of each of these types of teams than a mixed one is because multiple range units would mean that they can all get healed together. And she can even heal herself with this, right? And same with melee. So better you focus on one, like either ranged or melee, over the other, right? Also, don't complain that she won't really heal them, because if they are low, she will, right? If not, she'll heal your front line anyway, so that's pretty good. As a healer, she does her job, right? She literally has so many heals built into her kit. Sorry, I say so many, there's literally only like 2 outside of her ult, but then Talia only has like 1 outside of her ult. But the thing is, you'll actually be using Talia's ult a lot. Well, not Talia's ult is useful, so you will actually end up using it. So we'll actually talk about Erika's ult now. Problem we have with support ultimates is that the issue of possible time fail. Yes, you may be able to keep your team alive longer, especially since this is an invincibility factor, right? Problem is, yes, you do get attack percent increase, but that's not really enough to actually nuke the enemy, right? Because we do need a lot of burst, and that's why we use units such as Mephistopheles or Velanna to actually nuke the back line, right? So we'd rather die trying than, you know, try to live through like another 5 seconds, right? So we're not really going to be discussing her ult because you're barely going to use it, right? Very situational. So what would be her power spikes? Now the thing is, after actually looking through entire kit, yes, she does have a lot of power spikes, but then the biggest one would be level 161, right? Because Eureka literally activates her entire kit. So 2 things: you'd want the extra attack percent, which isn't really big, but the thing is, the chance of activation changes to 50%. Now you'd be like, it's just a 10% increase. No, it would proc 25% more, because if you 50 over 40 1.25. Now, obviously, this doesn't translate to 25% more of the time, but then it's a 25% increase, right? Because again, binomial distribution, this doesn't mean that it will directly translate into the amount of times that will actually proc, right? I'm just waffling at this point. Just forget I said that, but I'm pretty sure that if you study maths or like higher level maths, you'd understand what I'm trying to say. If not, it doesn't matter, right? So now we'll actually be talking about her artifact. Thing is, they actually changed it from what we had before, but then, you know, that tends to happen a lot, right? The point is, it's actually a lot better now because they increased the speed multipliers and they actually finally gave her a cleanse. Thing is, the good thing about this, right, is that the cleanse is on Magnum Opus. Now, it's not a full screen cleanse, but it does cleanse the units that are, again, subject to receive the emergency heal, which is really good, right? And then Poison Potion will have a purge at Legendary Plus. Deal Breaker, not really, but it's very good to have, right? So, with that, would you actually need a Legendary Plus? If you have the right units, no. And here's why. If you literally just have it Epic Plus, which is very, very attainable free to play, right? And if you have a 2-piece speed set, we'll be talking about the units that will work very well with her now. Starting off with, what's her name? Honglan and Vivienne, right? These two units. The thing is, with Vivienne, apart from being a very good damage dealing unit already in general, she literally starts off with Westerly, which is increasing, the speed of all allies by 20%. That also includes Erika, right? So with Vivienne's speed boost and a 7-move turn, because again her rotation is 7 moves. Where is this Vivienne? 7 moves, right? And then Erika has 8 technically. Even at Epic Plus Artifact and a 2-piece speed set on Erika, right? So we'll calculate all of that right now. Epic Plus 2-piece speed set plus Vivienne's 20%, this 39% increase, right? So now you have a 39% speed boost on Erika with Vivienne having 20%. Sorry, was it 30%? Because she gives another buff to herself. Yeah, Vivienne actually gets 30%. Yeah. So the nice thing about this is that Erika and Vivienne would almost have a synchronized sub-skill rotation, unless Vivienne has her own speed set, of course. But you know, I'd recommend crit damage for Vivienne anyway. I don't know why you go for speed set. But yeah, that's really good. And obviously, the more ascensions you have on Erika's artifact, the better this gets and the more instinct they'll actually be. Meaning, Erika's sub-skill rotation will probably just last a span of 7 turns with Vivienne. Now here's another thing with Honglan as well. Now, I'm not saying you pair those 3 units together. No. We'll be talking about Honglan only first, right? So with Honglan being one of the best units we have, right? Whip out the tier that she's triple S. And providing a speed debuff to the entire enemy team, Erika would move relatively quicker, right? Relatively quicker to the enemy, that's what we're trying to say. Although Erika would still be slow, the enemies would also be relatively slower to her. Does that make sense? Now with speed keepsakes and her own speed buff from her artifact, a lot of issues would be rectified. Also, the fact that Erika has low accuracy at 5, the second lowest in the game, would probably mean that she'd have missed her poisonous potion, you know, not her heal. But then, you know, there's just a lot of things that Honglan fixes in Erika's kit. How? We'll actually do the calculations very quick, right? So we know that Honglan, if I whip her out very quickly, 14% speed debuff to the entire enemy team, meaning that the enemy would have 86 speed, right? And then again, Epic plus Erika, so 15% plus a 2-piece speed set. Keep in mind, we're already using very, very low invested Erika in this, right? So just imagine what invested Erika would look like. So 15% plus 4, 119 speed, right? Obviously, hopefully you guys can follow. Over 86. You're moving 39% faster. What was this like? Vivienne's. But what's the difference? Honglan's lasts the entire match. The thing with Vivienne is, with Vivienne, you'll only be 39% faster for a short bit amount of time, right? So now everything's adding up. Okay, so that's just how their interaction is with these two units. So that just made me happy, right? Now we'll actually be talking about the best units to go with her. Well, one of the best units, right? So Chloe, to keep her alive, especially when Chloe's defense buff goes down from taunting, because again, we look at the rotation. Chloe S1, then this lasts, I believe, 8 seconds. Right, so she does this, then it lasts 1, 2, then if Erika's fast enough, once it gets off, she'll have an extra turn. Hopefully Chloe survives the extra turn, and then Erika would be able to buff the double resistances of Chloe, keeping her alive even longer. And we already know how good Chloe is as a tank. Then with Claire, since Claire is always up in the enemy's cheeks, emergency heals would be given to her. But again, Gia's is stronger. Thing is, Erika's emergency heal on her sub skill is actually also really strong. This is literally like 330%, and you'd be thinking, wow, that's crazy. But that's Eureka 3, 220% without Eureka 3, right? So another thing is that Gia does have a full screen heal and cleanse on her sub skill rotation, but that's one of the biggest issues of Erika. No full screen heal, absolutely none. Now another one you guys would actually probably be happy about is a unit that will be coming in the flower event, so you'd actually be able to dupe her out, which is Haru. Thing with Haru is, again, you'd want her in melee comps just so you can get her artifact, which is Pack Hunter. It gives you camouflage literally like crazy, double resistance, everything, all that jazz, and then a 30% increase to all allies, not just herself, when there are at least 2 allies with her, right? So very, very fun. Again, another one is Velanna, because Velanna already gets double resistances in her kit. Where is she? Right, double resistance here for 14 seconds, if I remember. Oh yeah, there. So keeps Velanna alive longer, especially in maps where you use her as a hyper carry but lacking sustain, since Erika's emergency heals are actually pretty good. Velanna already has double resistance here, right? So adding even more would be very nice to keep her tanky. She's already a really strong hyper carry, so yeah. Next is Adrianne. So we've already mentioned a weird interaction with their Ring of Brilliance and Erika's own poisonous potion, right? We won't really explain that anymore. So Adrianne does not really have any resistances built into her kit, although she does have a lot of defense boosts. So thing is, you can't really ascend her that much, so defense wouldn't really be good in her. I mean, her defense is not really that good. Defense multipliers wouldn't really help her out much either, right? So again, double resistances would be very, very good on her. So, and also she's melee, right? So Adrianne is used a lot as a secondary tank. So most of the time you'd be healing her and the secondary tank, healing her and the tank at the same time with Magnum Opus. So wonderful. So next one would be Linzy, which is actually a very good interaction. So first, the drawback. Again, she's separated because Linzy does go to the other side of the team a lot of the time because of Avenging Sword. So she's separated, meaning that if she becomes the target of Magnum Opus, only one unit will benefit from the main heal, right? But the good thing is that, again, S1 will debuff the furthest enemy, which in a lot of cases is also the unit with the highest attack. So if you position her right, this would mean that the enemy would have reduced attack to keep Linzy alive longer, plus she has 59 evasion for a bit, right? 39 up most of the time, right? Yeah, it's just crazy. And if you do get the Eureka 3 buff for the minus 24% defense, then boom, the enemy's getting clapped by Linzy, right? Because her sub skill 2 actually does so much damage, 290% before crit, and decreases defense by 10%. So yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, she also has high crit rate multipliers, again because of days. Yeah, especially at legendary plus. So wow. So now the only issue, again, the other issue is that Linzy finishes her entire sub skill rotation before Erika even gets to use giant potions, you might want to think about that. Basically, one of the biggest benefits that Linzy would only get would realistically only be poisonous potion, right? So again, there are other units also work well with her. We've mentioned Petra. So Petra would get even more sustain with getting double resistance from Erika, which Petra doesn't have, surprisingly. The reason why Petra is so tanky is one, she has, self-sustain in her main. And she has a crazy defense buff of 80%, but no double resistances, right? So if you add double resistances to a unit with so much defense already, well, Petra's not gonna die. But again, the issue is she'd be alone, meaning, Erika wouldn't really be able to give that many heals to your team, right? Now, Jacqueline, in cases where you are using Jacqueline, where is she? There's a high probability that she will be under fire from a lot of units, so Erika can help her sustain, with the exception if Jacqueline dies very quickly. So if Jacqueline's able to survive, basically Jacqueline will use this teleport, right? Then she'd be invisible for these 2 normal attacks. Once she uses this again, though, she'd be vulnerable, so she has to survive literally like 8-10 seconds, something like that, before she actually receives a heal. So you probably just want to use other units for that instead, like Talia, right? So this is where we're saying where Erika doesn't really replace anyone. We're just giving you the actual things. So yeah, other units are nice as well are Aira, because Aira has a very specific HP threshold that activates her entire kit pretty much, if I can find her. So with her being melee DPS unit, having Erika there would be very beneficial again, because strong emergency heals and a good resistance increase. So there you go. I'm not really sure, but yeah, resistances are just really good in this game, man. Like, trust me, if you have a Chloe that's below 35% HP, you'd understand why I'm hyping up resistances, right? So I've actually seen people work Renee, especially in faction gates, fairy faction gate, and same concept as Linzy for keeping an evasion unit alive, but that's not the only thing that would make you want to go for a Renee Erika combination, right? They work together since Renee does stay with your front lines, so Magnum Opus again would be good, but Renee isn't just that good of a unit, so I would not really recommend it. Again, other units would work as well, even the ranged units, but these are just some of the interactions that are very obvious, right? So how do we compare her to other healers? We'll just do Catherine and Talia comparisons, right? So much like Catherine, she buffs the resistances of units, but there's a caveat with Catherine's passive where they have to be a certain HP threshold, right? The only issue with this HP threshold is in cases where even your tank gets one shot by either, like a Miriam or Dora in some cases, right? Is this a deal breaker? No, Catherine has defensives built into literally every single part of her kit, whilst Erika has a passive that doesn't really buff her team. It just activates her kit, right? That helps her team. So she does have a lot of burst heal, though, which has multipliers higher than that of Catherine, but it doesn't necessarily mean better unit, right? Because Catherine also has access to a full screen heal that Erika doesn't, and neither of them have a cleanse, and I remembered that they changed Erika, right? So Talia has got a full screen heal and other defensive such as accuracy decrease to the enemy and even a shield to the furthest unit away, and her ultimate is just 10 times more useful, so you'd realistically be able to activate Talia's entire kit compared to Erika's, right? So yeah, guys, if that video was useful to you, then please do consider subscribing and join the Discord, because we hop on calls almost every day, right? So it's been Uno Night, and I'll see you in the next one.